dog bites.
There's a warning tonight concerning a trend that's made its way across the internet that harms pit bulls.
Attacks.
Hashtag Pitbull drop-off, calling for owners of the breed to take them to a kill shelter and have them euthanized.
Toddlers.
Another reads, after a nice long sleep in this morning, it's time to go out and pick up some more pit bulls to take to the pound.
Today we'll look into what many consider the most dangerous type of dog in the world, and 4chan's attempt to take the breed out of existence. And to the surprise of many, this trolling campaign shed new light on the issue of pit bulls, with many debating it to this very day. The origins of pit bulls can be traced all the way back to the 19th century. Back then, dogfighting was a popular pastime. Because of this, the breed was developed to make the blood sport more interesting. They crossed the thickly muscled Old English Bulldog with the agile Black and Tan Terrier. This resulted in ferocious, burly competitors that were much lighter and faster. Even at the time, their owners faced scrutiny. In the 1890s, Pitbull breeders sought recognition from the American Kennel Club, but they were rejected due to their association with dogfighting. To protest this, they began a rival organization called the United Kennel Club. In addition to functioning as a breed registry, they also regulated dogfights. Even after the abusive combat was criminalized, the prejudice never went away. In fact, it remains a controversial subject to this day, as the canines are statistically more likely to fight other dogs, often to the death. This is so much the case that a Maryland court deemed them inherently dangerous, and there is no shortage of horror stories about pets and even children being mauled. In 2009, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia published a 5-year review of dog bites. They found that over half of the injuries were caused by pit bulls, and a 2011 study revealed those attacks to be associated with higher morbidity and risk of death. It's for this reason that 1,000 cities across the US enact some form of breed-specific legislation. In 1989, the ownership of pit bulls was criminalized in Denver, Colorado. For 3 decades, the animals were routinely rounded up and euthanized. It's estimated that at least 3,500 were put to death in the city. Just east of Denver is Aurora, which followed their footsteps in 2006. Within the first year, they killed 636 pit bulls. Even those who dislike the breed often agree that the genocide is unnecessary. Studies indicate they don't reduce attacks or improve public safety. That includes Denver, which still hospitalizes more people for dog bites than anywhere else in the state. Because of this, there have been successful campaigns to have the laws repealed. But there are many who still argue the legislation doesn't go far enough. Instead, they're dead set on exterminating the breed, even calling for federal criminalization. Entire communities exist online for the sole purpose of advocating their ban. They refer to it as a crisis, with pages documenting every single fatal attack. Posts on the subreddit Ban Pitbulls can even be sorted into categories like human fatality, disfigurement, dismemberment, and child victim. It has over 71,000 members. With such opposition, it would take an equal amount of relentlessness to fight back. And that's exactly what the defenders of the Pitbull have done. They arm themselves with their own research, like pointing out potential issues in reporting. Several studies prove that shelters misidentify dog types up to 87% of the time. That's a real issue when it's often the sole basis of classification. That being said, other points brought up by this camp are a bit more shoddy. For example, the idea that historically pit bulls were considered nanny dogs. Defenders of the breed often bring up this point, but it turns out to be a myth with no historical backing. Online, these breed advocates often refer to themselves as pit mommies. They'll post photos of their pit bulls in pajamas or playing with children. While mostly wholesome, the veneer seems to change when confronted with the opposing side of this debate. In 2013, a 14-month-old toddler was mauled to death by his babysitter's 2 pit bulls. This led the grieving father to start an ad campaign warning of the breed. Shockingly, the man was subsequently flooded with hate mail from Pitbull owners. One commenter posted a picture of the deceased infant's head, claiming they would use it as a dartboard. Another suggested they use it to play kickball as he wouldn't need it. They also told him to end his own life so he could join his ugly son. They went on to successfully impede his ads by getting them temporarily withheld. Needless to say, the conversation around this breed can get surprisingly heated online. There are two distinct communities with a vested interest in what they believe is the right thing to do. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility when in May of 2018, murmurs of a new campaign to kill Pitbulls circulated. Needless to say, chaos ensued. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. Have you ever heard of the brand Vessi? Well, if you haven't, listen up. These are the best waterproof sneakers in the world. In the months where it's very rainy or snowing where I live, like it is currently, it's hard wearing sneakers because they always get soaking wet. But that is no longer a problem now that I wear Vessis. And unlike other competing products, they're made from Dymatex. This is important because it's a dual climate knit material that keeps you cool in the summer and warm in colder weather. It doesn't feel like it should be waterproof, but it is. And unlike other winter shoes, they're extremely comfortable and come in a lot of fashionable styles. Vessis are the perfect gift under the tree and for your feet. Check out their holiday sale at vessi.com/GFM. Get the style and size you want now before they sell out. And if you missed the sale, use code GFM for 15% off your entire order. As is the case with most heated debates, Twitter users quickly began taking sides on Pitbulls in the late 2010s. On May 3rd, 2018, a Twitter user posed an innocuous question. To prove that Pitbulls were harmless, he asked owners to post pictures of their dogs being cute. But one anonymous user didn't take it so kindly. They replied, "I adopt Pitbulls on Craigslist and put them down. You'll never be able to stop me. I'm keeping children safe." The tweet received hundreds of likes and retweets. A lot, but not enough to go viral. It likely would have been forgotten if not for a quote tweet made 5 days later. That afternoon, user Bixie Noodles claimed to be part of a growing wave of activists adopting Pitbulls to euthanize them. He referred to the movement as Pitbull Drop-Off. His confession spread across the platform, with many confused as to its legitimacy. But Bixie quickly confirmed the worst, bragging he'd put down 9 in the past week, and hoped to end a dozen more. This revelation caused a massive uproar in both outrage and support. Tweets flooded in from both sides, so much so that it was enough for the hashtag to start trending. People began posting listings from their area of Pitbulls they found up for adoption. They mocked the owners and the circumstances for giving them up. For example, a pregnant woman who seemingly didn't want the pet near her newborn. Others treated it like a game, professing difficulty in convincing them. "I found my next target. This bitch is acting like she's going to be hard to convince. This will be a challenge for me." There seemed to be no shortage of dogs, with many questioning why this site was full of people dumping these killing machines onto strangers. But as the campaign continued, it wasn't long before they cleared out entire areas. One woman collected 7 dogs while noting ownership was illegal in the area. That meant if she took them to the pound, they would take care of the rest. Many people began to learn why the breed was considered dangerous for the first time. That included some Pitbull owners who felt guilty over the risk. One such user was Clear as Gibbs. "The last picture I ever took of my Pitbull, her name was Peaches. It made me sick to my stomach, but I had to do it for the innocent children she could have killed if she snapped like many other Pitbulls do." Naturally, those advocating for the breed began to break down over the genocide. The hashtag was filled with emotions, as the cruelty led many of them to have panic attacks. There were viral posts warning others of what the activists were doing in hopes of saving lives. "If you're a Pitbull owner or breeder, please don't post on Facebook or Craigslist. People are killing innocent babies because of false accusations. Please retweet to stop the Pitbull drop-off. It's disgusting and cruel." With seemingly hundreds of dogs being killed, it wasn't long before the movement caught mainstream attention. It became the subject of not only articles, but even news segments on national television. But with so much scrutiny, people finally started to realize not everything was as it seemed. confirmed. You see, if all these tweets admitting to killing dogs were real, they would be ostensibly criminal allegations. That meant journalists had to be careful about what they published. Through this, they quickly discovered that many of the posts were flat-out fabrications. Many shamelessly used pictures lifted straight from Google Images. In fact, nearly all of them could be uncovered using a simple reverse image search. Because of this, they were able to definitively prove that Pitbull drop-off was a hoax. But if this was the case, it leaves two big questions. Where exactly did the hashtag come from, and why? Well, it turns out the answer would be none other than 4chan. No one noticed it at the time, but the site's politically incorrect board had been plotting the scheme for some time. In fact, just days before being discussed on television, an update was posted reading, "Hashtag Pitbull drop-off has been simmering on Twitter for 2 days now. Naive pit mommies and various other low IQ individuals are falling for the bait. This will be a major news story by Monday, so it's best to escalate the hysteria before the national news breaks for max effect. All you have to do is post a photo of a pitbull you say you picked up and dropped off at a kill shelter under hashtag Pitbull drop-off." As it turns out, the trolls over at 4chan took notice of how vitriolic the discussion about pitbulls had become, and they decided to orchestrate a hoax to make it appear like they were being killed en masse. But upon closer inspection, signs that it was a prank were there from the very beginning. Several posts made allusions to political talking points associated with the left, for example, referring to them as military-grade assault dogs. Others compared pitbulls to various racial stereotypes, even calling them the N-word. While it can't be said for certain everyone was joking, it was broadly a complete fabrication. There was no growing movement, and little was done outside of Craigslist screenshots. So once the jig was up, Pitbull drop-off slowly faded from the public consciousness. But the same cannot be said of the breed and 4chan. Many posters became annoyed at what they viewed as hypocrisy from the other side. They seemed to be more concerned with the dog's life than the countless deaths of children. One would remark, "The self-hate propaganda has gotten so strong that even a rabid dog is held in higher regard than a child." This discussion continued for years, sparking memes on the notion they're inherently violent. It veered into the absurd, spawning the idea that the dog sought out infants to maul. For example, fake headlines praising them for heroic acts only to attack someone. They largely stayed within 4chan until 2022, when they spread across social media. Anti-Pitbull jokes became inescapable, proliferating across Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and TikTok. It once again has led many people who would otherwise be unaware to form an opinion on the subject. Interestingly, just a year prior, Colorado lifted its 30-year ban. With the anti-BSL movement becoming more successful in recent times, it's possible the memes could have negative consequences. But that remains to be seen. So there you have the story of how 4chan convinced millions of people they were killing dogs. And with that, I think I'll end the video here. So until next time, thanks for watching.